knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
Continuing our examination of reptiles, let's go through their body systems. Like the mammals, reptiles have 11 body systems, or organ systems. These are the circulatory system, respiratory system, digestive system, nervous system, endocrine system, muscular system, skeletal system, integumentary system, urinary system, reproductive system, and the immune or lymphatic system. That's a lot to cover, so let's investigate them in this order and pay special attention to how they may or may not differ from other tetrapods. The reptilian circulatory system is similar to that of the mammals in that it has two pathways: the pulmonary path, a short loop from the heart to the lungs and back again, and the systemic path, which leads to the rest of the body and back. Like the mammals and birds, the crocodilians keep these two paths separate via a four-chambered heart. However, all the lepidosaurs, the tuatara, and the squamates have a three-chambered heart, consisting of two atria, one variably partitioned ventricle, and two aortas that lead to the systemic pathway. This allows for a certain amount of blood mixing between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood that varies by species. Also, similarly to many fish and amphibians, reptile red blood cells are nucleated, unlike the red blood cells of mammals that lack nuclei. Meanwhile, the reptilian respiratory system differs by clade. The squamates, for example, primarily ventilate their lungs using most of the same musculature used for locomotion, meaning that many but not all species cannot breathe and run at the same time. The turtles, meanwhile, cannot expand their chest to breathe as the squamates do, and instead use a combination of their abdominal and pectoral muscles. Aquatic forms have developed more permeable skin than other reptiles, and some species, such as the sea turtles, are capable of exchanging gas across their modified cloaca and pharynx through buccal oscillation, allowing them to breathe underwater, though they must surface eventually. The crocodiles, meanwhile, have a muscular diaphragm that is analogous to the mammalian diaphragm, though it works a bit differently. Many species do not need to breathe as often as the other amniotes, such as the tuatara, which breathes only about once every 7 seconds, and some turtles can not only hold their breath for an incredibly long period of time, but some can lie dormant for months during brumation, a form of ectotherm hibernation that requires very little to no oxygen and can persist for months. Next, the digestive system of most reptiles is often relatively short since so many are carnivorous. It includes the mouth and its salivary glands, the esophagus, the stomach, the intestine, and ends in a cloaca. In addition, since reptiles are ectotherms, or cold-blooded, their internal body temperature can fluctuate a great deal more than the mammals, who perish easily if their internal temperature falls outside of a narrow range. This means that they require far less food to sustain their bodily functions, and instead use their surrounding environment to moderate their temperatures, such as seeking out basking spots when it gets cold, or hiding from the sun when in the middle of the day. The reptilian nervous system contains the same basic parts as the amphibian brain, but the reptile's cerebrum and cerebellum are slightly larger. They essentially have the same sensory organs as other amniotes, though some lack ear openings, such as the snakes, though they have middle and inner ears, and turtles, whose eardrums are covered with scales, though both groups are capable of hearing. Since most species are diurnal, they generally have high color vision and depth perception adapted to high to moderate light conditions, while some of them hunt at night, such as the pythons, boas, and pit vipers that have pit organs on their heads that allow them to sense radiant energy. Snakes and other squamates are also noted for possessing Jacobson's organs, or a vomeronasal organ, a patch of sensory cells used for smell that are also found, though often underdeveloped in most tetrapods, including humans, which they use to smell or taste their environment. The reptilian endocrine system is poorly understood compared to mammals, though it does consist of a single thyroid gland, two pairs of thymus glands located cranially to the heart, two pairs of parathyroid glands, paired asymmetrical adrenal glands, a pituitary gland, and the pancreas. Like in mammals, these organs function in the release of hormones that regulate metabolism, growth, and various physiological processes. Like all vertebrates, the reptilian muscular system includes muscles that contract and enable movement by pulling on the skeletal framework. In reptiles, limb muscles are often less robust than mammals, but this does vary by taxon. Compare, for example, the diminutive limbs of the eastern blue-tongued lizard to the fins of a leatherback. Meanwhile, many reptiles, the snakes, lack limbs entirely, and others, the crocodilians, often use their muscular tails and bodies for locomotion over their limbs. The reptilian skeletal system varies in morphology by taxon, though it still functions to support the body. Except for the turtles, most reptiles have elongated bodies and reduced limbs, though the snakes and legless lizards take this to the extreme and their skeletons reflect that. Perhaps one of the most interesting reptilian body systems is their integumentary system, which is watertight, dry, and covered in scales or scutes, the origin of which differs by clade. For example, many reptiles, such as the lizards and snakes, are covered in epidermal scales, which they shed periodically and all at once through ecdysis, while the pronounced armored scales of turtles and crocodiles are dermal in nature and do not overlap, though their softer parts are still covered in epidermal scales, which they shed, often in small patches instead of all at once. Their urinary or excretory system functions in the removal of cellular waste and is primarily performed by two small kidneys. Many produce uric acid as a waste product that empties from the urogenital ducts into the cloaca, which also houses the anus and the reproductive system. Most clades conserve water by excreting nitrogenous waste as white, solid, or paste-like uric acid rather than liquid urine, often appearing as dry pellets. Many desert-dwelling species, especially turtles, have proportionally large bladders that aid in water retention in dry environments. Next up, the reptilian reproductive system differs between males and females, though outwardly there is often little difference between the sexes. Males of many species are often larger than females, but look nearly identical. In addition, their reproductive organs are housed within their cloaca except during mating season, making it even more difficult to tell the sexes apart. However, on closer inspection of some species, sexes can be determined externally. For example, in many turtles, the plastrons differ between males and females, while the pelvic spurs, or vestigial hind limbs of pythons derived from the pelvis, are more pronounced on males than females, and others, such as male leopard geckos, have a distinctive V-shaped row of preanal pores and two distinct bulges. Finally, much less is known about the reptilian immune or lymphatic system than that of mammals, though it is of course comprised of a series of lymph nodes, white blood cells, and lymphatic vessels that function as defense against pathogens. In general, immune responses tend to be less adaptive than that of the mammals, and often more broad and innate. And that wraps up the reptilian body systems, but we're not done with reptiles yet. We still have a lot to cover regarding their diversity. So let's move forward and delve a bit further into their classification by exploring the turtles, tuataras, and crocodilians.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.